Today we're making Bob
bear proof.
There is so much content to get to with this M1102 overlanding Bob build. We're just going to go ahead and start getting to it. Let's go ahead and start on the computer and let you see what the plan is. The Bob trailer ultimately will be Ryan's trailer. He's funding this whole thing. Now we're going to be using it for the chase vehicles for the Baja 1000, but at the end of the day, he's going to be taking it out with his family, and he's got a lot of things that he wants to do to his trailer and make it look awesome. So there's a balance between the things that you want to do that look cool, and then also the engineering feasibility of doing those things, and we're trying to balance that out. We do a pretty good job communicating with each other. But verbally, sometimes it's hard for me to explain what I want, so I wanted to just to visually show him what my design concept was. So I went ahead and got onto the Bennett software, which I love their software. And once you learn how to work with the pick points, you can just whip something out. And as you can see here, I'm just starting to construct this whole thing in Bennett. And then you can visually see not only how it will go together, but then also dimensionally how will all the tubes that we're going to use on this thing look as you pick the tube size and that kind of stuff. And you look at it as visually pleasing to the eye, and I think that we did a pretty good job of hitting it. One of the other things I really like about the Bennett software is that once you're done with your project, it shows you how much material you need, and if you put in the weight values for each of the pieces, it'll also show you what your whole project will weigh. But with regards to how much material you need, it's really cool. However, you got to be a little bit careful, because in the case of the 1.5-inch square tube, it says we need 472 inches. So that comes to just about 39 feet. So I can just go get 40 feet of this stuff. Well, actually, when you think about it, it comes in 20-foot sticks, and you got to figure out how much of your piece will fit in that 20-foot stick. As it turns out, we'll have some left over on each one of the sticks. We got to get an extra one for that. But that's just one of the parts you need to work yourself through as you're thinking about what you got to go purchase. Bennett does have some great software for working with sheet metal. However, I've been using Fusion 360, and I just haven't learned to use the Bennett software yet. So let's jump over to Fusion 360 and see how I prepare the sheet metal to put in my Langmuir Systems Crossfire Pro Plasma CNC table. So this is Fusion 360. I have been using Fusion 360 a lot because it's a really great program for modeling things in 3 dimensions and then flattening out, and then I can put it into the Langmuir Systems plasma table. It has been working great. Another great thing about this is if you're interested in getting into CAD, Autodesk offers this program to personal use for free for a year. So if you're interested in doing something like this, and then also pairing it up with either a plasma table or a 3D printer, both of which I have videos for, it is just a really cool and super powerful program to do that with. We're pretty lucky here in San Diego to have great metal vendors. My go-to is Industrial Metal Supply. They have a really huge selection of things that I couldn't find other places. It's all kept indoors. You don't get rusty parts and those kinds of things. And most importantly, right around the corner is H-Mart, where you can get these French fried covered corn dogs. And that should be reason enough to start a project. If you've been watching my videos, you will see that I use the Langmuir Systems Crossfire Pro CNC plasma cutter for just about everything. It's just a total game changer in the shop, and it just wasn't that much to get it in there. You see my videos, it's around $4,000 to get plasma table, water table, plasma torch, torch height control, everything into the shop, shipping, tax, you name it, for just around $4,000. You can't touch it. Now I'm an affiliate with Langmuir Systems, which is really cool. There's a link in my description. If you go to ntdracing.com, there's also a link there if you want to check out one of these tables. There's a lot of other stuff in my store also. Any of the tools that we use during the build, I usually try to put it in the description of this video or on the NTD Racing store page that you can go ahead and check out. If you think you might be interested in one of the tables by Langmuir Systems, check out my other videos in my Langmuir Systems Crossfire Pro playlist on my YouTube channel, where I talk about how I put it together and then some of the tips and tricks I learned along the way to make the table work better in my own shop. I think this should be pretty cool to the other Langmuir Systems owners out there, is that when we did the initial design on Fusion 360 for the letters, I didn't realize that the toolpath had missed part of the R, so it didn't cut that out. So I was able to go back to Fusion 360, redo the design and redo the toolpath. And the cool part is with Langmuir Systems' latest fire control update, the 20.6, I was able to go back and say start from this specific point and went in and cut it perfectly. It was really awesome. So impressed with the Langmuir Systems software. Just before we get started putting this thing together, a few things left to do. We got to get all the tubes cut. We use our bandsaw, which makes short, accurate work of all that. We're dropping all the parts off of the plasma table into our vinegar bath to get all the mill scale off and get those things prepped for welding, and then just hooking everything up on our table, and we're ready to go with welding. Well, my disclaimer is that I am not a professional welder, so I just don't feel comfortable trying to give like instruction on how to weld. But I'm always happy to talk about what I do and why I do things. So I have two welders in my shop that I use primarily. I use a MIG welder or a TIG welder. And I like to TIG weld most everything. One, because I think it's a much higher quality weld. It looks better. And I'm not really a great MIG welder. I have never, of all the things I've made, if it was TIG welded, I've never had a TIG weld fail. But I've had a MIG weld where even though it kind of looked okay, it still came apart, and I could see later on that I just didn't get the penetration in the weld that I expected. So I stick mostly with TIG welding. And then while I'm TIG welding, I kind of been watching some people and some videos, Jody at Welding Tips and Tricks, and a buddy here in town named Mike, and kind of some of the recommendations they gave me. And so, when do I just push the TIG weld pedal all the way down and hold it? And then when do I pulse the pedal? And the case would be, if I have a really clean thing to weld, like these plates, which are mostly really clean metal, and it's easy to kind of keep a nice consistent puddle going across there, then I'll set the TIG welder. In this case, I think are probably about 160 amps for this 3/16. I just put the pedal all the way down, and I just run all the way across and just try and keep ahead of the puddle there. And a little bit of pacing is required, but it's easy for me to get to that weld in this case, so it makes it easy to do that. If, however, it's an area I can't get to easily, like this weld, or in this case also, this is the back side. I already welded the other side of this piece of metal. Now I'm welding the back side, and there's a little bit of mill skill there. So if it isn't perfectly clean, then I will start pulsing the pedal with my foot. It will down and back up, and you can see it's happening here in the video. And also, what it lets me do is, if I have to readjust myself a little bit, it gives me a second while the pedal is up to readjust, get the filler just right, and then pedal down, and then I can feed it in. And then lastly, if it's a really thin piece of metal, I'm burning it away. If I just hold the pedal down, if I pulse the pedal, it lets me kind of be on the piece just a little bit longer before I start melting the piece away. So, I think the results came out pretty good. All right, test number one.
All right, here we go.
Let's do it.
Bob's actuating arms. Here we are. Go, Bob, go. Go, Bob, go. These are the Windy Nation actuators, linear actuators with 20-inch stroke. I think they could lift about 200 pounds each. Pretty burly. And we have designed this little actuating arm for Bob. Oh, not done yet. Oh, it's a grower. Dude. It's getting good. It's getting good. You're impressed. I know.
Very nice. All right, I just wanted to give you a quick look at the side panels for Bob as I have it all clamped up and ready to start welding. Just a quick overview, some of the tools that I'm using. I like to use this strong hand table, one of my favorite tools in the shop. It's about 6.5 by 3 feet wide, and it is just awesome. Helps me get everything flat, parallel, perpendicular, all those things. I custom made all these clamps. I think the only one I actually paid for from Stronghand were 2 of these, and they are also pretty good, but not much better than just these ones I fabbed up with some Home Depot parts to make those. The welding setup I'm using, I got the Miller Dynasty 200DX, and it's just been an awesome welder. I run it about 140 for this cutting application. And then I think I think it's called a CK torch. I run a gas lens with a number 8 Pyrex cup there, 3/16 electrode on there. I get all these parts from Jody, Welding Tips and Tricks. You can check him out at the Weldmonger store. I think his information, the stuff that he puts out is awesome. And I've actually learned a lot about welding. I hope he'd be proud. Sometimes my welds are looking good. I've been welding for, learning how to weld for about 25 years now. And sometimes they look pretty good, and then sometimes they look like that. It's not, I'm actually kind of happy with that. I was filling in about, a 3/16 gap with TIG welding there. I could do a second pass on that and clean it up and make it look a lot better. But besides that, I think this thing will be pretty rigid. As I build this thing, and anytime you build a structure like this, you got to figure out, what are the critical dimensions that you have to hit. And in this case, these posts right here have to be perpendicular, one, but most importantly, this post right here has to be absolutely parallel with that post down there as it goes up and down on bob. And you want to make sure you don't have any kind of binding. So what I did is I welded these tubes together on these plates. Anytime you weld anything, it's going to move. This stuff's going to bend, it's going to warp, and that kind of thing. And so if I just measured perpendicular off of this tube, the measurement is going to be a fraction of a degree or maybe a degree different than the 90 degree, the perpendicular off that tube. So they wouldn't be together. So what I had to do is I got 2 other pieces of 1.5 inch square tubing that are not welded to, and I know they're perfectly straight. And I put those together, ran those up to the edge of the tube, and then now I run my speed square up to this tube, and I know, okay, this one is perpendicular over here. And as I go over to this side and take the same measurement, now is this one's perpendicular on that one. Now I know, okay, that tube is parallel to that tube. And now I'm ready to weld these together. And I know as it starts to operate, that won't be the reason that it binds, because they'll be totally parallel. So let's go ahead and get to the welding. All right, the first test of bob. Here we go. Let's do it. That is just obnoxious.
Welcome home.
Awesome.
Welcome home.
Victory. Totally impressed by the way this thing worked, going up and down. Much respect for Ryan and his vision for this project. Before this video gets too long, let's go ahead and wrap up part 1 of this build, which is really getting this rack done. And man, it just came out so cool. The rack, as far as the height goes, what we were shooting for is when it's in the down position and as you're driving, the rooftop tent will basically be just above the windstream of his truck. It won't be hanging out in the wind too much. And also, in this position, you can sit underneath it inside the M1102. When it's in the all the way up position, Ryan and his wife can actually stand up in there. So I think we just totally nailed the dimensions. I think it looks awesome. I think plus also just the dimensioning in general of the hardware looks pretty good. Give you some close-ups of some of the stuff we made. We got these brackets here. Cut these out on the Langmuir Systems Crossfire Pro, and as you can see, the lines are parallel. I think they came out really nice, and those bolts just drop right into this M1102. I think they're really cool and really rigid, durable. The actuator is also super durable, 200 pounds of lift. What we will be doing to modify these is we'll be putting holes through here, so as the lift goes up, we can go ahead and drop a pin in there so that while you're sleeping, you're not resting all the weight on those actuators, which I think will give at some point. At least I wouldn't trust the wife and family to those. Again, these plates just, I think, came out really cool. And as you can see, the theme here for Bob 1102, paying homage to the M1102 military roots of this thing. I think the plan that we got for this as we get into the next parts is we're going to keep the paint, since it's almost brand new. It looks like this military grade paint on the side. We're going to bed liner the inside, and then the rack is going to come in at a black. We got the racks in for the very top, and that will be where the rooftop tent is going to go ahead and mount up there. But all in all, I think this thing's coming out awesome. Future videos, we're working on the electrical next. We're getting it painted. Just a whole bunch of cool stuff is going to be happening to this thing. Stay tuned. Well, 2021 is going to be a very exciting year for the NTD racing team with Honcho back here getting worked on. And then what I really love is this Bob build. It has just been such a blast. And there's a lot of great stuff I think we're going to be doing to it and making videos. The rooftop tent shows up on Friday. We will take video and content of us putting that together. It is going to be massive. I think it covers most of this space. And as you can see, this thing is just huge. If you're new to our channel and you like the content, then please consider hitting the like and subscribe button below. That is the lifeblood for YouTube. It's the way you tell them that you like the content, they show it to more people, and it definitely helps us out. We got a lot of cool videos coming out, which will be for Bob and also Honcho. And if you want to see those, then maybe hit the notification bell below, and it'll tell you when our next videos come out. And we will see you then. Take care of yourself.